Reactive training systems.
It's funny. I feel like the thing we're getting at right now is like the thing of coaching. Like coaching, I feel like the skeleton, the bones of it are writing a training program, right? But what I find like I encounter so much more, like actually working with people is trying to develop like training skill, like we're talking about. And it brings me back to the skill acquisition episode that Mikey did with what's his name a couple months ago, of like how do we develop the skill. And I'm relating this. I recently read part way through, I don't know if you guys have read it, The Inner Game of Tennis, and it's a little bit about the skill acquisition. um, and it's like, how do you develop these skills where you can't describe, like I can't tell you what to do in this thing, and if I tried to tell you what to do, I would be making too many more assumptions than it's worth. Like um and it's like so much of it is you just have to live through it and you just have to do it. But then it brings me back to like how we view skill acquisition is like a constraints led approach to um, putting someone through specific development exercises that constrain them in specific ways that develop their technique on the lift, right? And I view training that you can do similar things. You can put specific constraints onto an athlete. You can experiment with certain things that are constraints, not because you need to put the person in this like jail, like RPE jail, or, whatever. But it's like this constraint to further show them different solutions to a task, and different models with which they can like approach different tasks with. Um, and I feel like that is where a lot of my coaching mental space goes, is towards this training skill development and figuring out how to um, put creative constraints, or put constraints that are creatively useful on certain athletes, and not in a way that's like you need to be constrained, but like a way that's like, you, with this constraint, you will adapt and learn different solutions to this problem. So, and anyway.
Yeah, I jive with that a lot. Like that, I think that's a good space to spend like your mental effort of in coaching on. You reminded me of a book I read a long time ago that I might pick up again. It's called The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin, and it's a really interesting story. Like um, he was a really young chess grandmaster and chess prodigy and everything, and so he's talking about kind of his journey through like becoming really good at chess. And like in the beginning, you're learning a lot of things and you don't know much, and it's like there's the explicit rules that you learn, but then there's a lot of just kind of feel element to it because you don't know anything more than that. But he talks about like this kind of long period in his career that I kind of like, to put it in powerlifting terms, would be like your late junior years, like you're into the open, you're still a young open lifter, you're still developing and got a strong upward trajectory, but you haven't reached sport mastery yet, right? And he talks about like numbers to get numbers is how he describes it, which I remember reading it and it didn't make sense, but like at this point in my life, I see that, and like in the way that we can count the number of sets and the RPE, and then combine those to get a different number, and then maybe combine those to get a different number still, and that's supposed to tell us something. Like you go deeper and deeper and deeper into these relationships, and they are real relationships. This isn't a waste of time or anything. This is like real, actual learning and development of mastery. But for him, at least in his chess learning, he comes out the other side and it becomes again about feel. you know like there's this deep understanding that underpins it, but it still comes back to, you feel it and you're reacting to this. You've internalized it, you know and you're reacting to things as they happen. Now maybe uh, performing well in a chess tournament's different than writing a really good training program, but I think there's elements of crossover here and things to be learned from.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind for me is like when I hear both of you guys talk about that is I think it's like that that paradox of precision again.
Yeah.
Is like, if you kind of zoom out and think about the types of training programs that have led people to be successful, I feel like there's people aren't doing marathon running programs to become a world championship powerlifter. So there's a sufficient space of programming that needs to exist within. And I think you can be better or worse within that spectrum. So it's not that programming doesn't matter, obviously. My point is, the way that I think about it nowadays is like, what is going to hold somebody back from actually reaching their potential? And it is 1000% every single day of the week, whether or not you are able to establish the strategies to be able to do this for a long time and be able to navigate within the space of effective training for year after year after year after year. It's not the fact you did 5 sets, not the fact that you did 6 sets. So I've just put such a premium on building that toolkit of, you just into, like Josh, like what you were saying is like, we can get better understandings on how, sleep metrics or recovery metrics and things like that can better approximate what I should be doing for today. But there's always going to be that one or two if statements in the back of your brain that say, although my sleep is terrible, today's actually a good day to go for my RP9 single, even though by all, and I always just call it like listening to your meat computer. Like a novice individual doesn't have the requisite experience or exploration of training to have a very finely tuned meat computer. But as you get, more advanced, more experience, like you said, Mike, you've just done more things. I feel like your intuition on those things gets substantially better. And at some point, the structure is extremely useful initially for novices, early intermediates, like those early junior lifters, to have a structured way to get exploration of like that training space. But at some point that almost becomes a restriction because you have a very finely tuned sense of how to actually navigate that, in kind of the further you go. So that's always where I kind of just come back to, is like that building that toolkit is almost necessary to get to your potential, because probably not a specific training solution. Obviously there are better than worse ones. And that's going to be kind of individual and context dependent. But I think if you can't execute any training program with high training skill, you're kind of, shit out of luck from the start almost. Yeah.
I suppose my counterweight to this, like, because we're definitely all pulling the same direction here, and it's just kind of an explanation of, like, when we started this conversation, I was kind of taking more the position of being the optimizer, and and that's true, but the role that this plays for me is kind of a mistrust of some of my own biases. Like, I do have, as you put, the meat computer that sometimes says, hey, you need to maybe do another set there, and do it better this time. And lots of times that's the right choice. I just definitely want to make sure that, like, I can justify it in a meaningful way, or at least that if it's actually a really stupid choice and my biases are getting in the way, that becomes a little more obvious. The sometimes the meathead brain is helpful, and sometimes it's not helpful in figuring it out.
I said meat computer, not meathead computer.
Well, I'm entering the meathead meathead brain into the conversation here, I guess. But yeah, totally. Anyway, yes.
This is where Zach and I might, like, we agree in principle, but maybe we come at it from slightly different angles, because I'm like very, just my personality type is like routined and specific, and I think I am in a lot of ways, like, I don't trust my decision making in the moment. I think there are like very good examples of like, no, I've felt that discomfort before, I know it's time to like mail it in for the rest of the session or whatever. But generally speaking, I like to have a specific thing to shoot for, because I think myself, and I think this is just applicable to humans in general, rise to the occasion. They rise to challenges. So if the training is so loose, some people might not rise to the occasion and leave a lot of gains off the table.
Shh. There is a secret to great training programs, but it's not a magic set and rep scheme for this one weird exercise that powerlifting pros don't want you to know about. The secret is in your training log. You see, years ago, we began developing tools to help you unlock these secrets, and we've been putting them online for free ever since. That's right, it's free for everybody. Now you may be thinking, what's the big deal? People have been logging training forever, and you're right, but the secret isn't just in keeping a logbook. It's using that log to make better training decisions. That's the real secret. This is where the RTS training log excels. You haven't done SSB squats in 3 months and you're wondering what your target weight should be? We can help you with that. Did you overshoot on your top set and you're wondering if you should adjust your back offsets? We can help you with that too. Are you building the most important training block of this year and you're wondering what your most highly effective blocks have in common? Yep, we got you covered there too. There's more. There's a lot more. And yes, it is all free. Not just a free trial, not free with ads, just regular free. You go to reactivetrainingsystems.com, then you click on apps, sign up for a login, and you're in.